Okay, welcome guys. Today is January 7th. I'm so excited. Jody is going to introduce our speaker for the evening. Take it away.
So I'm so excited to introduce Dana, my coach, to do call tonight. When she asked me, if she could do a call, she had just something on her heart. I said, absolutely. Dana shows up every single day, all the time. She's a full-time English high school teacher. So props to her for going through all the things all the time. And then juggles, coaching as well. If you guys don't know anything about Dana, she always has a smile on her face and is always just full of life and positivity and just all the things. Like there's never a moment when I see Dana and she's like not smiling and not saying, what can I do to help you? What can I do to support you? What can I do to motivate you? And the awesome thing is I've actually known Dana for years, and we won't actually say how long because no one needs to know how old we are because we're still 21. But it's just so fun because we literally have grown up together. She was a little bit older than me, but a little bit younger than my older sister. So we've known each other probably since I was in junior high. So she's seen me go through all my stages, all my crazy stuff. And yeah, Dana's just always been such a light in my life and my family's life and stuff. So it's so great to kind of reconnect, and she just has the same impact on me now that she did then. So I'm just excited that she is sharing her heart tonight with all you guys, and you guys get to see what a light she is.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, so I did this backwards. So let me share my screen real quick. I'm going to do the recognition and then we'll let Dana speak. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we are going to welcome some new coaches. This is Faithfully Fit. Rachel is the amazing leader over there. So welcome Heather to our team. Welcome Caitlin and Susie. And, Rachel reached out to me yesterday when she was like, I signed 3 coaches. And most of them are from her challenge group. She's just plugging into the people that she is already serving. And if you are in our Business Builders Club, we had 15-star diamond Carrie Schneider go live, and she just blew this training away. It was only 10 minutes of such good nuggets about serving the people at your table and really focusing on getting your coaches from your challenge group. So I encourage you all to just make your challenge groups awesome, be the best challengers that you can be so that you will find your next rockstar coach. So congrats to all of you. Oh, sorry, Courtney as well. Just keep going. And then Dime Dynasty, this is Casey's team. Welcome new coach Jessica. We're so excited to have you. And then on Align, this is Stephanie's team. So welcome to Annie. And then Melissa's team, welcome Jessica and Jen and Heidi. So all new for Fit for My Family. So super exciting. I love seeing these new faces, and I'm even more excited to see how many of them next week and the week after are celebrated here for being an Emerald coach. You want to get your face here, then I suggest that you hit the next promotion in your business, because truly and honestly, your business is not open until you are Emerald. Your business is not a business until you open our compensation plan. So can't wait to celebrate you all there. And I am going to let Dana talk to us, and I'm so excited. I hope you guys will just get out a little notebook, free yourself from all distractions. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at these messages. We are here for a reason. Be present and learn from somebody else's heart. And we're so excited to hear from you, Dana.
Hi guys, thank you April and thank you Jody. I'm really glad you didn't say how long I've known you, because lately I've been feeling pretty old. But like Jody said, after hearing Rachel speak and then Casey speak about our goals and aligning our life and just all the things that we need to do to be successful and to reach our goals, I was doing some of my own PD, and actually, let's see, can I share my screen? Oh, no. Can you make it so I can share my screen? Yes, I'm 5, by the way, like Jody said. So there we go. Okay. So I am a high school English teacher, and so I do things with presentations, and that's always helpful for me. So don't mind that. And if I have my teacher voice and I have to have my headset on because I'm teaching from home, and if I don't wear my headset, I sound like Darth Vader. So it's a little bit more professional and less laid back maybe than I would hope in terms of like how maybe you're seeing me. But nonetheless, I think that this topic is really, really important. And especially, I mean, with everything that's happening in our world with the last year and all the changes we've had and just the things that are coming at us from every direction, it's really important to not just do self-care, but to really think about our mental health and how do we overcome those mental blocks so that we can reach our goals, because at the end of the day, that's still what we're trying to do. And so I heard this statement, and it's at the top of the screen: mental hygiene is as important as washing your hands. And like the crazy thing was, as soon as I read that in my own personal development, I was like, oh my God, that's so true. And like, you never think about it because you wash your hands how many times a day, or you think, you know, I need to wash my hands now or whatever, but do you really think like I need to do mental hygiene? I never thought that, right? So it was just a different way of kind of looking at that concept. And that's why I asked Jody, like, can I share this? Because my mind was blown, and it was some really simple things. And I think it's just some things even that we take for granted and we forget about. So to kind of jump in and just give you a little background about the science of what I'm talking about, there's these 4 circles basically of mental health. So there's 4 areas of mental health that we really have to always consider, and we can work on one, and sometimes we only work on one. But that's where we start to realize like something's missing. And so we have to work on all 4 areas of our mental health. And those are biology, social, psychology, and spiritual. And spiritual doesn't have to mean, you know, you are knee deep in a religion or something like that. It's about your faith. What do you believe in, right? And if you are a religious person and you follow God and you do Bible study or something like that, that totally works in terms of spiritual. And social, we have that, ladies, like right here. So I think we're covered in that regard to some extent, but we also have to consider the rest of our social life. Biology, obviously, is kind of like how we're created, you know, our hormones, where we are genetically, right? Things like that. And then psychology, that's really where I think a lot of people tend to focus on, like the self-care and positive thinking and gratitude. And so all of those things combined really create this idea of mental health. And we have to work on all 4 areas to truly have that strong mental health and be able to overcome any obstacle. So another thing that I stole from my PD was that our mental health is like the 4 tires on a car. So these 4 circles are like the tires. If one goes flat, you can still drive your car, at least enough to slow down, to pull over, to start to fix the problem. If 2 of those tires go flat, however, you're probably a little bit out of luck. Like if you don't stop right there where you're at, you may crash. You're going to lose control of your car because 2 tires being flat is not a good thing, right? It's too much for your car to handle to still work the way it's supposed to work. So 3 and 4 tires, right? If they all go flat, God forbid, like watch out, because who knows what's going to happen, right? It could be a really dangerous situation. So the same is true when we think about these 4 areas of mental health. If one is lacking a little bit or we're struggling in one, we're probably going to be okay. We're going to be able to stop and pause and find a good place to pull over and really work on it and fix the problem and then go about our day. If 2, 3, or 4 of these circles, though, are not so great, right? And we're struggling in multiple areas, we're going to have a lot harder time dealing with it. So it's important to consistently work on each of these. And so that's where this idea of like the 4 tires comes into play. Because I imagine like if all 4 of my tires went flat on my car, I could just like see the sparks flying and I could see like going in the other lane on the road, right? And realistically in life, and something that I've learned is that genetically, and I have some like hormonal imbalances, and I suffer from depression and anxiety. And so biologically, I have to work on those things. And I take some medication, but once I started working on my social and spiritual and psychological mental health, that biological health started to improve as well. And so, like, when I started this journey, I was on high doses of antidepressants and anxiety meds. And since I started, I've been able to almost get to the point where I'm not taking them anymore. And so that's where, like, I'm seeing in my own life how working on one of these is okay, right? It's going to give me a little bit of an advantage, but working on all four of them together has really helped me become more successful and open and able to do things that I've always wanted to do. So these 4 circles we have to work on at all times, not all of them all the time, but we have to kind of go back and forth between each of them. So then when we're struggling, what do we do, right? How do we tune up? And the first step is to recognize or acknowledge that we actually have an issue. It's really easy to just say, like, I'm okay, or I'm fine, and go about your day and let things, fester and build and get worse. If you don't recognize that there's a problem, then that's what's going to happen. That struggle is just going to continue to get worse. And again, you're going to have 1 flat tire, and then you're going to have 2, and then you're going to have 3, and then you're going to have 4. So one way to recognize and acknowledge your struggles is write them down, even if it hurts. Seeing something in print can be the hardest thing. The next one I think is even harder a lot of times. Say it out loud. Look yourself in a mirror and really say, like, I am struggling. Even just saying that, like saying that out loud right now, I just got like goosebumps and like I got all the feels, because it's a hard thing to admit, but we really need to do that. And by writing it down and seeing it and saying it out loud and hearing it, it's really soaking into our mind, and we're able to then move forward and do something about it. If we can't acknowledge it, we can't make the change we need to make. We can't fix the tire, right? Our spare tire has now also become flat in that case. So we need to recognize and acknowledge. And ways to do that, if you're having a hard time, are to ask some really good questions, like, are the thoughts I'm having true? So if you're telling yourself something negative, like, oh, I could never do what she does, is that really true, right? Or are these thoughts accurate? Are these thoughts correct? Odds are, by the time you get done asking yourself those 3 questions, and they're all very similar, you're going to scoff at yourself, or you're going to laugh, or you're going to be like, what the hell am I talking about, right? Because they're not true. You can do anything you want to do. You can do what that chick over there is doing, or what that girl on Instagram is doing, or what your neighbor's doing. You can do it, right? And there's nothing that's holding you back except yourself. So by asking yourself those questions, and again, saying them out loud is huge, because you're not just saying them, you're like putting them out there into the world and making them real. And that's where then you can start to let go. Let go of those false thoughts. If you are scoffing at yourself, if you are laughing when you ask those questions and you're like, is this true? And you're like, of course it's not true, right? Like, I can do that. Then you're going to have an easier time letting go. If you are having a little bit of a struggle letting go, however, think about, why am I thinking this thought, and what's the real problem? Because you know what? A lot of the time, the thought we're having isn't really what's wrong. It's really not what we need to address. There's something bigger or something more. Maybe it's something even from our past. And this is where maybe you yourself can't fix the problem, but by recognizing it and going back to step 1 here, you're able to begin to address it. Maybe in some cases, like actually 1 year ago, yesterday, I went to a therapist for the very first time, because I was having like these huge angry moments, and I was screaming at my husband, and I would look at him even in the middle of screaming and say, I don't even know why I'm mad. Like, what is wrong with me? And that was me saying, like, what's the real problem, right? And I didn't know. I didn't have the answer. So I knew that in order to fix that, in order to get past that anger I was feeling or deal with it, I needed to reach out. So I did. And I went to a therapist, and I didn't have to go very many times for her and I to realize, wow, this is the real problem. And you know what? I was able to fix it, and that was amazing. But if I didn't acknowledge that problem, I would still be yelling at my husband every day, and it would be awful, right? So you really need to stop and ask those questions to yourself and be honest with yourself about them. And then obviously deal with the real problems, right? Right. Don't let them sit there. Don't let them get worse. That rabbit hole is just going to make your problem grow and grow and grow, right? Because anytime we're mad or upset, it's so easy to say, well, you know, my alarm didn't go off today, so I didn't get out of bed. And I left the house without brushing my teeth, and now I have this awful breath. And now everybody who I talk to is looking at me funny. And I sped to work and I got a speeding ticket. And you know what? It's going to happen, right? Because if all we're seeing are those bad things and that's all we have in our mind, that's what we're going to keep seeing. And that's what we're going to keep experiencing throughout that entire day. All right. So once we begin to acknowledge and once we begin to start dealing with whatever the problem really is, we need to really program our mind. Because we can take those first steps and we can do it once, or we can do it today, or for this week, or maybe even for this month. But you know what, next month, we might come across something that's bad as well, right? Or we might start having some negative thoughts. And if we don't start to program our mind to bounce back and to keep doing those things, we're going to have trouble, right? So if we want to really truly reach our goals and you want to be successful and feel that success and like let it just take over everything about you, you're going to have to program your mind. And I will be the first to say this was so hard. My thoughts are not real. What? Right? So when I think I'm in pain and I think I'm hurting, what does that really do, right? That just leads to me continuing that pain. That leads to me continuing that hurt. And so it's really hard to accept. And again, this is where we have to stop and acknowledge it, that like there is a problem, that our thoughts are taking over and they're not the reality of the situation, because we're human, we're imperfect. Our thoughts come from all different places, not just ourselves. Maybe we hear something, right? How often do you hear somebody say, oh, I really hate that? And then right away you think, oh yeah, I don't like that either. If you stop and think about it, you might actually be like, you know, it's really not that bad. I don't mind it so much. So those things you're hearing and the way your brain takes in that information could cause you to have thoughts that are not true and not real, that are false statements. So it's also important that we attach ourselves to positive thoughts. There is so much negativity around us. I'm a high school English teacher. I can tell you, like, when I'm in the hallway and there's other teachers talking, there's always somebody like, oh my God, I can't stand these kids, or oh my God, we have so much work, or whatever. There is negativity everywhere, right? I mean, you turn on the TV right now and there's something negative. There's somebody talking about something bad that's happened. And you know what? That's the world we live in, unfortunately. We cannot control that. So we have to attach ourselves to those positive truths, to the positive thoughts, to what's out there that's real, that's positive, that's going to bring us up, right? Because where you place your attention is your choice. And where you place your attention is where you're going to stay all day long and all week long and all month long. So if you do wake up and your alarm doesn't go off and you're feeling that negativity and you're thinking all these negative thoughts like, oh, great, my alarm didn't go off. Now I don't have time to do my workout and I don't have time to get my lunch packed and I don't have this time and I don't have that time. And damn it, I'm not going to Starbucks this morning and I really wanted to do that. You know what? If that's what you think, your attention is on all that negativity, take your attention on vacation every single morning. I love that. Like when I heard that, every morning I'm like, yeah, let's go on vacation, right? Especially because like I haven't been able to travel anywhere or go anywhere or see people, or, you know, my husband and I are kind of getting bored with each other because we're the only people we see, right? So go on vacation. Take your mind there. Go somewhere, go to your happy place. Maybe that means you meditate. Maybe that means you look at a picture. Maybe you even have vacation photos and you're like, man, I want to go back there. Take yourself there, right? Do the things that put your attention in a good place, because you're not only going to be able to be on top of your game, which means obviously working towards your goals is going to be so much easier because you're going to feel good about it. You're going to feel good about every single thing you do, and that's going to build your energy. Even on days when you don't have a ton of energy, you're going to feel good, right? You're going to be positive. And the energy, and I actually said this in my stories about 25 minutes ago, was this thought I had today was the energy you give off is the energy that returns to you, right? Energy is like a boomerang, guys. If you throw it out there, it's coming back at you. Whether you call it karma or whatever, right? You're going to get that back. If you smile at someone, most of the time they smile back at you, even if they're not having a good day, right? It's just a reaction. It's that same thing as yawning, right? We yawn and somebody yawns, and now probably somebody's going to yawn. I'm sorry. I apologize for that because I said it, right? So when you throw it out there, that's what you're getting back. And that's why we have to take our attention on vacation every day. See, Stephanie yawned. I'm so sorry, Stephanie. So when you take your attention on vacation, that's where you're going to live, right? You're going to live on vacation all day long. And how amazing to be on vacation every single day of life, right? So this idea of, taking care of our mind and programming our mind doesn't stop. It never stops. Even if you get really, really good at it, it doesn't stop. And maybe when you start, you have to put Post-it notes everywhere in your house, right? Or maybe you need to set an alarm on your phone to remind you to do certain things. I'm terrible about sitting still. And so meditating, which I have found to be amazing for me, is not something that I easily do. And a lot of times it's like I get into bed at night and I go, oh, dang it, I forgot to meditate, even though I want to. So I have actually set an alarm now for in the morning and then one at night, because sometimes I would prefer to do it, at one time or the other. And when the alarm goes off, I do my meditation if that's when I'm going to do it. And so the idea is that programming your mind is just like programming anything else, right? When you program, well, we don't really program our TVs anymore, but when we used to have to program TVs and let it run through all the channels, right, it took us a little time. So it's just like anything else. It's going to take some time. And you might have to remind yourself, and that's why we have accountability buddies, right? Or why we have our Zoom virtual gym. We have that reminder. We have those people in our life that are going to help us to keep coming back to what we need to do, to program ourselves, to get into those routines and continue to make our mental health a priority and improve on that. Keep those 4 circles healthy and strong. And if you're afraid that you're not going to be able to do that, if you don't really even know what your spiritual health is, and I was kind of in that place about a year ago. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to jump into like this Bible study. I mean, I was brought up, I was baptized a Catholic. I was brought up in a Christian household. I believe in God, but I hadn't really been following that faith for a long time. And there was something missing in my life. And when I jumped into that group, it was like all of a sudden, I just felt better. And so again, I realized how important each aspect of our mental health really is, and they all come together to play that important role. So once we start to program our mind, then we need to ask, because you know what, we're still going to struggle. Nobody's day is perfect every single day, forever and ever and ever. Even if we follow the same routine and do all the things we're supposed to do, we're still going to struggle, right? So what do we do when we're struggling, even when we have that routine? Leave the struggle bus in the parking lot. Just park it, get out, and go into Target, okay? Because we all know that once you enter Target, you feel a ton better, and we don't care if the struggle bus is on fire in the parking lot. It's somebody else's problem then, okay? So the first thing is face your fears. And this kind of goes back a little bit to what I already talked about recognizing and acknowledging, right? We need to face our fears. There is something holding us back. There is something we are worried about and that we are fearful of. And maybe it's simply that we're not good enough. And that is the hardest thing in the world to admit. That's the hardest thing in the world to accept. That is the hardest thing in the world to see when it is yourself. And so we have to do that, though. It's so important. If you don't face your fears, all the other things here can't happen. It is the first thing, right? So don't let fear stand in the way of your success. There's so many people who can be vulnerable and be authentic and even work on their mental health, but they're so fearful of something, whether it's success or the time they need to put in or the energy or not being good enough, that it holds them back and they're never going to succeed. They're never going to reach their goals. They're never going to feel like they should be reaching their goals. So those fears, we have to get rid of them. We have to face them head on. If we don't, they're always going to be there. They're going to be that thing festering. They're going to be that thing pushing us down the rabbit hole. They're going to be that thing, that wall standing in our way. And none of us need that, okay? We have way too many other obstacles to deal with that we don't need to have that sitting there waiting, butting your head against the wall repeatedly. I mean, come on, that's not any fun, right? So then once we do that, we can be honest with ourselves and we can be honest with others. And that is so, so important. Those things, by being honest with ourselves and others, are going to lead to being vulnerable, because honesty is vulnerability, right? And the same thing with being authentic and knowing we're not perfect. If we're honest, we're going to be able to do all of those things. So that's going to be like the snowball effect. And now our struggle is going to get easier and easier and easier, because facing our fears, that number one thing, was the hardest thing we had to do. Everything after that is, like a snowball. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's getting better and better as we roll down the hill. Because once our fears are out of the way and we can be honest with ourselves and others, we can be vulnerable, we can be authentic, and we can start doing the work we need to do to reach our goals. And that's what's most important all the time. So when you are struggling, just know that for one moment it might be hard, but it's going to get easier, right? And we have to keep telling ourselves that, and we have to know that. And if we start with step 1, step 2 is going to be easy. Step 3 is going to be easier. Step 4 is going to be like no big deal, right? And so we're going to succeed and we're going to reach those goals. So all of the things end up leading to working on your brain. Because if you can face your fears, be honest, be vulnerable, be authentic, understand that you are not perfect. I know, guys, I'm sorry I have to tell you that, but it's true. And I am so far from perfect. So I'm right there with you. But once we know those things, working on our brain is going to be, easy peasy, no big deal. So I'm going to share a little part of my story here with you. Now Jody said some things that I'm a little surprised, and maybe I was a light in her life. I don't know. But when I was younger, I was awful. Like I was the mean girl. I was terrible. And I was not a person I was proud of. I'm not going to lie. So I was not always positive. I maybe gave off that, facade, but it was so a facade, guys. I was so not happy. I was really selfish. I was arrogant. I thought I was perfect. I was definitely not vulnerable. I never had problems. Like I did not share anything with anybody. If it was a problem, if there was something wrong with me, you were not going to know. I was not going to tell anybody, right? So I wasn't being honest with myself or others. And looking back on my life, all I can remember, and guys, I will tell you, I am 37 years old, and I will tell you that for the first 35 years of my life, I was the most angry, unhappy person I think I've ever met, or that at least I know. And that sounds awful because I wasted 35 years being angry and unhappy, and I was the mean girl, and I hated myself, and I took it out on the whole world around me, even maybe when other people didn't know it, because I was not nice, right? And I wasn't nice to myself. And I said a lot of mean things to myself. And I put myself down a ton, okay? I'm a 5'4" athletic girl. Like growing up, I wasn't going to get to wear the same dress as some of my friends to homecoming or to prom. And I had thick curly hair and it didn't look the same as other people. And I hated it. Freshman year of high school, before homecoming, I jumped into my sister's bed, pulled the blankets over my head, and I said, I am not going because my hair looks stupid. guys, it looked just fine. It was just fine. But I kept telling myself it looked bad because it wasn't the same as everybody else's, right? And so being mean to myself, then I was mean to other people. I was mean to my sister. I was mean to my family sometimes. I cared about all these people and I loved them, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't even recognize those things that I was doing. And I lied about things. I made things up because that's what I thought would make myself feel better. So it was not a good situation, right? And as I got older, as I got into college, and as I got out into the world on my own, I was so burdened. I was carrying this burden of all of that, of like this anger and this unhappiness. And it literally was like weighing me down. And it made me make terrible, terrible decisions. I mean, yeah, there's a lot. But I did things, like I said, I'm not proud of, and it pushed me into some verbally and physically abusive relationships, and I made poor choices. And now, right after 35 years and being lucky enough to find a man, my husband, who was able to say, Dana, look, like this isn't the way it is, and he's always like so terribly honest with me that because of that, I was able to start recognizing all of these things, and I'm grateful for him. And that's another reason why I wanted to share this stuff with you guys, because sometimes we just don't know, right? And we need somebody to tell us these things. And so after I started to recognize and acknowledge what was really going on and the true problems and the way I was feeling about myself, and I was able to start changing my brain. So when I would think, oh, my alarm didn't go off, crap, right? And I couldn't do the things I wanted to do in the morning, now I think, you know what? I got a little bit of extra sleep and I probably needed it. So that's a good thing, right? And so I can't stop at Starbucks and get a coffee. Oh, well, I probably don't really need it, right? Like it's not one of my containers for the day. So I look at things and I catch myself when those negative thoughts start coming, and I switch them around, right? And once I was able to start doing that with my brain, I was able to start feeling my body, because the stress that I was putting on myself because my brain wasn't right made it so that I couldn't get my body right, because stress does hinder our ability to lose weight, to feel good, to have energy. And those are all things that we need to fuel our body well. Working out is not something we can do if we're not eating right. We don't eat right if we don't feel right. If our brain is constantly telling us negative things, we're probably trying to eat chocolate or have something, right? Maybe caffeine, soda, whatever it is, to build ourselves back up. And so once I got my brain right, I was able to start fueling my body and doing the things that I needed to do to get my body on board too, right? And during all of this time, I realized that, or I learned that if what you're doing or saying to yourself or to others isn't serving you or them in a positive way, or your life and your goals in a positive way, then you need to let it go, right? You need to put it away, recognize that it was there, recognize it was the past, and refocus on what is purposeful for you. And that's where like programming my mind started to really come into play, and where I was recognizing that I was making those changes. So the connection of working our brain and fueling our body is very obvious. And this goes back to something that Casey shared with us about happiness versus joy, and the fact that you don't want to focus on or do things that give you temporary happiness, because they're not going to be good for your brain. It's basically a con, right? It's making you think something is good, but it's not. It's like caffeine or soda. It's good for you for a hot minute, but then it's your downfall. So you're going to crash, right? Your brain is going to be foggy and lethargic. You can't focus. You're going to feel lazy and tired. But for that split second after you had it, that caffeine gave you the up you needed and then it became a downer. So your body and your brain work together, and if one crashes, the other is soon to follow. So once we start to feel our body, and sometimes that's small things, right? Like drinking water in the morning, or fueling our body in terms of feeling better, maybe doing gratitude, or meditation does both things, right? It fuels our body and our mind. Those little things can make a huge difference, and they're going to help us to continue to program our mind to feel good and to want to do those things. And lastly, turn yourself on. Yes, I said it, turn yourself on. Don't dim your light. Don't let yourself sit in the dark. What it means basically is that don't let others' negativity rule your life. And it's none of that is going to feed your brain or your mind or your body any quality ingredients. So get rid of it, right? Deal with the negativity right away. Recognize it's there and let it go. Don't let it grow and hang over you, because if you do that, you're going down that rabbit hole. You can always go back to the questions: is this true, or are my thoughts true? Are they accurate, and are they correct? Those are things I ask myself all of the time. For a while, I made them the wallpaper on my phone because I needed that reminder to do those things. So when you're struggling, ask yourself those questions. The other thing you can say is it purposeful? Because if the answer is no, move on, leave the struggle bus in the parking lot. Do not pass go. Do not collect the $200. Get yourself to Park Place as fast as you can, because you're going to make way more money at Park Place than you are passing go. Okay? And you can do all of these things with just a few reminders, or with those few questions in mind. And lastly, what I really want to share with you tonight, above all other things, is that none of this is linear. Everybody's journey will look different. You may be able to recognize and acknowledge and move on in a minute, or in a day, or in a week, and others, it might take a month, it might take 2 months, it may take a whole year. It took me freaking 35 years to figure this stuff out. It's okay, all right? Every small step makes a big difference. And never, never forget that you are working way too hard, right, on your body, as part of this team, as part of a family, or as a mother, an aunt, a sister, just a woman in general in our world, and in all other aspects of your life. You are working way too hard to be stalled by that 1 or 2 flat tires. Give a little and get a lot back, right? Just a little bit of a regular tune-up, just like we have to get our cars right, a regular oil change, and we're going to save ourselves tons of problems, tons of issues, and the struggle will be way less than it would if we didn't have those regular tune-ups. So to end, I want you all to be that hottie on the sexy motorcycle. If I liked motorcycles, I would totally have that one. And not the poor woman in the dirt trying to change that tire in her heels with some inappropriate tools. I don't even know what those things are, okay? So be that hot lady on the motorcycle, because you all can do it. You all have the power. It's one thing at a time, one question at a time, one day at a time. And if you ever are struggling and those things are not working, reach out. And I put my email on here because of that, because I am totally there to say, did you ask yourself those questions? Did you stop for a minute? Did you meditate? Did you recognize the negativity around you and let it go? Is it purposeful? Is it serving you? Is it going to get you closer to your goals today? So live your best life, ladies. We are all capable of doing it.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. Obviously, you probably haven't seen all the comments, but you need to go through them. Everybody needed this like so much right now. So I can't even tell you how timely this was, and just what a proud coach I am, because you did so awesome.
Thank you.
And I know like how you research and how you dive into things. So the fact that you got to share all that tonight was just awesome. And so many takeaways. I can't even list them all. There's just so much that I'm going to be like just doing, and everyone wants your slideshow. So we'll definitely get that out to the group page and everything. So we can share. Everyone's like, I need that. I need to share it. So many great takeaways, so many things to start working on and focus on. But yeah, just like, yeah, I love like leave the struggle bus and go to Target. Like, who's on board for that? No problem. I'll be there tomorrow. Not a problem at all. Yeah.
Also a Starbucks and Target, just saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they're together, right? So if anyone has any questions though, now is a great time. If you want to go through the chat at all, Dana, I don't know if there was, I don't think I saw any questions throughout, just all the praise and all the all the excitement. Oh, okay, perfect. April saved the chat. Okay, well, let's get a group picture if no one has any questions.